Welcome to April Power Hour. I am Tessa here in Indiana, joined by Meggan Jax out in Phoenix, Arizona. Tonight we're going to do two layouts with you. Hopefully you have your handouts printed and we will move right along. So I'm going to switch over to my camera, and I won't lie. Meggan and I started talking as soon as we logged in. Yep. And so I hadn't even tested my camera yet, but it's actually not bad. Let's get a little adjusted here. Move that up a little bit. So for today's layout, we're going to talk about a couple things for me. One is choosing the coordinating colors, and then choosing your punches. So this is a simple layout. It won't take you very long. The longest part will be choosing your 4 papers to do with it, along with your base paper. So I used a chain style border maker cartridge. That's what we're going to focus on today. If you do have a border maker cartridge that will fit, those are thinner than the regular border cartridges. The BMCs have thinner designs. And so because we are fitting 3, the thinner the better if you want to have this open space for your photos in your mats. Of course, you can use a larger design. Maybe you only want to use 2 punched items, and maybe you'll just layer it underneath whatever photos you do. But that is a little bit of a thought process into it. We have had, quite a few thinner ones, so there are some options out there for that. For this layout, I used Sun Soaked, which is our current tropical collection. And most of our collections have what we call statement prints, where they have kind of a fun, elaborate design that has multi-colors in it. And so I want you to start there. I want you to choose your collection and then find the statement print that you want to feature on your layout. I am going to suggest that it's probably easiest to then choose maybe a base cardstock. If you use a cardstock and not a paper, just find a color. It might be a little easier than picking a paper, but there are tonal papers that would work also. But you're going to want something that has enough of a contrast against the papers you're going to choose that you punch so they stand out. And then you're going to want to choose 3 papers. If you can't find 3, you can narrow down your choices or use the same that you want to punch your papers with. Tonight I am going to use Passport to Adventure. And if you'll notice on our Meggan might know better than me, but I think it's been a couple years now, time goes kind of fast, that they have started printing on the paper packs the color coordinating cardstock colors. And so if you're truly trying to find 3 colors, you don't know what to pick, first, you can actually just choose papers out of the paper pack. They're really good about giving you different options. If you wanted to pull in cardstock or something else, you can look at these coordinating cardstocks for you. Or if you're like me and a lot of you that have a full rainbow of cardstock colors, just take your statement print and go through your rainbow and see what sticks out to you. Today, when I first was trying to decide what to use for the layout, I pulled out a stack of the totally tonal papers that I had left over from a paper buffet. And so I had colors that no one really wanted, which tended to be the canary. I think this came out of pumpkin, and designs that maybe people didn't love so much. The arches, which I liked, and the plaid on the back. And so I opted to punch out of the paper because it does give your punch look a little bit of texture depending on the design on there, especially if it's kind of a tone-on-tone design. So it really worked out well with the Sea Star chain because it gave a lot of texture to those little seashells. I thought I was actually going to use the back side, kind of the 2-tone there. So if you have not used all of your totally tonal papers, you can check here on the paper, on the paper pack, and then pull out the tonal paper packs that might coordinate, and you might have some prints. I wouldn't choose, some of the ones have like a white base and a color, and that will work if you have a high contrast base paper, but sometimes the white can get lost if you don't have high contrast in the print. And then once you choose your colors, you can choose your cardstock for the base. I chose Deep Sea Green, kind of a deeper color of one of them. So if you're not sure about your cardstock, look at the 3 colors you picked. Do you have something with a deeper tone, a darker color? Or you could use white if you pop it out. The problem with white is that a lot of our prints, and like this statement print, has white in it. If I put this on top of white cardstock, it's not going to pop as much. And then for my mats here, I used Lagoon Shimmer. for those. I almost found a reason to use Island Waters, which I don't love either. And Megan doesn't love that color. I just have never really used it. And so I pulled it out thinking I might try, but then I saw the Lagoon Shimmer and I loved it even more. So that is how I came to choose the papers for this one. So tonight I'm going to use, like I said, Passport to Adventure. And I'm going to flip the orientation. So while this one that you saw has more of a vertical orientation, I'm going to flip it. And tonight I'm going to do horizontal based on the paper that I want to use. I want to use this paper. I thought I haven't printed my pictures yet, but we just got back from spring break. And I, of course, have enough for a layout at the airport. And so I want to do a layout with this paper. And so then I obviously have lots of choices in here. I also have the suggestions on Passport Adventures. I went through the paper already in the pack. I already have these scraps. I have the green and the navy, which work well. And then I went back to my Totally Tonals. I went to the canary. I thought maybe this would be a good base paper. I don't love the gingham print, but I think with everything else, I think it'll tie together pretty well in here. And then I needed a third color to punch. And I'm debating between this, which I don't remember which color this is. It was just on my desk from some other projects. It was out of a paper buffet. It's not current color. I also have gray, which will probably end up being the matte. So my third punch color will be one of these. Then for Border Maker cartridges, again, I wanted something thin. I do have the Jumbo Jet, which is an obvious choice. I wasn't sure if I wanted all three of those, and I was kind of thinking about a contrast in shape. So if you notice on my paper here, I have a lot of rectangles. This is a very straight line square shape. I thought, well, it'd be nice to incorporate something with a curve, something with circle or something. And so I pulled out some Border Maker cartridges, and I'm going to talk through why I chose the one I chose. And so some of these are old. This is diamond. Now I'm going to blank on it. It's a really old one from CM. I have frame chain, I have dotted diamond, and then I have circle chain. Circle chain I thought would be a good option, but I'm going to lose the middle of the punch because some of our punches have holes in them, and so you don't really get to see the full effect of the paper. So I took that one off. I thought dotted diamond and this diamond one, or whichever it's called, would be good options. But again, it has extra punches in there. I wanted to see more of the paper. And so I ended up choosing frame chain because it's going to let me see more of my paper when I punch it. And I'm not going to have, if you choose one that has a lot of holes in it, like these designs do, you're going to see more of your base paper through it, which you would want a high contrast if you do choose that. And then I'll decide if I want to add in a Jumbo Jets, maybe one line of it. I might do like one of gray or something like that. On my example layout, I did use a decorative blade. I used the Victorian, I think, here on the paper. Tonight, I don't want to use actually a decorative blade on here because of the straight line I have with the words, but I think I'm going to mat it to give me the same effect. I'm also going to not do quite 4 inches. That's the measurement I gave you. I want to mat it a little bit, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm just going by my design. I'm going to cut between these 2 lines of words here. So this is only going to be about 3.5 for that. And that also gives me, if I need to do 2 pages, I'm not sure I actually need the second page. It gave me enough. I didn't have a full 8 inches to be able to get 2 pieces out of there. I do want to talk about choosing your blades. And there was a question today in the virtual crop group. So I said, you know what, actually tonight would be a good layout that I could show it. So, and the topic was the scallop blade. Some of our blades cut the same. So if you're doing 2 sides of it, it doesn't matter. You don't have to flip anything. The decal blade, the pinking, colonial, Victorian. I mean, there is a subtlety difference in the pattern. Nothing I notice. I don't flip it. The wave, you don't have to flip. But if you use the stamping blade, or the scallop blade, depending on which way the blade is inserted and which way your paper sits, is where your paper is going to fall. And of course, Megan's correcting me that decal is also different, and she notices it's very subtle. I don't notice it. So it's going to depend. Are you a Tessa type that you don't notice those details, or you're a Meggan type and you notice all of them and they would bug you? You can decide if that really matters to you. To me, decal looks the same. Okay, so I'm gonna do scallop just because there is a difference. And so what I did for my scallop blade is I marked one end of it with a T, and that means top to me. So when I put this in here and I put the T to the top, I know that the decal, or not the decal, the scallop bump is going to go to the right side of my trimmer every time. So I don't have to think about which way to put my paper. I just have to know I want to put it in here on whichever side I want the scallop bump. So I need to give myself a little bit of an edge here to get a scallop on this side. And this would be the same. You'd want to do the same thing with the stamping blade. Now I need to turn my paper around. I need to flip it because I want my bumps over here. If I moved my paper through and just cut here, my bumps are going to go opposite and it's not going to get the same desired effect that you want. I don't know that I need a full 4-inch mat here. So I'm going to just kind of do a little eyeball about where I want to trim the other side. I'm using white shimmer just enough to pop this print off the page. So the scallop blade is in. So you'll need to put your blade in there, cut it so you know the bump goes to the outside, and then put a T at the top. So mine has a T. I don't know if you can even see it written in Sharpie. And so I always put the T at the top, and that means I always know which way to scallop. I saw someone else give the tip today too in the group that they actually draw the scallop on there. And like Megan says, Megan's obviously smarter than me. She always has some extra tip to share that the logo goes to the left. So that's probably easier. You don't even have to cut it first to know. The logo goes to the left when you put it in, T at the top, and that will cut it that way. Okay, so that gave me that paper. I'm going to mat this really quick. I suppose between the two of us, we cover all the bases. Mat this on there. I need to punch my pieces. These papers are already cut down because they're scrap. And again, I'm using the frame chain, which was one of the original BMP cartridges. I think one of the first 3 we had. We had the You and Me, we had frame chain, and I think, oh, I just blanked. I had it in my head and just lost it. The banner one, I think, were the original 3. The picket fences always come with the system, and then I think, and then one of the other early ones was the double heart. If you have the old catalogs from old CM, you can find them in there. Frame chain you do not see used very much. It does not get very much love, but one nice feature about it is if you have the ornament chain, the frame chain can sit behind it and frame your ornament pieces that show through. Okay, I need to choose my 3rd color, but I'm going to go ahead and put these on my base paper to see which color I think would be best. I can decide the order. So I could go with this color. I think that might be too much. I think I'm going to go with gray. I'm going to go with gray. This is cool gray, which is the current gray color. It's very similar to our old original gray. Do you guys remember, I don't know, it was back like 2010 or so, the whole gray and yellow trend? There's never one that I really jumped on. It was not my favorite. combination. I always thought that the colors clashed, but it's grown on me a little bit in this Passport to Adventure collection. Once you have your punch pieces, then we can start adhering them and you can decide the order of your colors. So this is just a little bit of eyeballing. You can decide what you want next to each other. You can see I have a nice texture from those prints on the papers. It would have been nice to have a gray texture. I couldn't find my gray folder, and I'm not even sure if I had any in there. Megan probably knows of. The black and white combo pack might have some gray in there. I was gonna have to dig through to find them. The other option is I was thinking I could punch the jets in gray, and maybe I would like that too. Let's punch the jets. The other option, if I use the jets, is to punch them in white shimmer, or I could have got platinum shimmer. And I would probably sandwich them in here right above between the frame chains. I think I like that. And so then I want to start adhering them. I did not give you specific dimensions for adhering them because it really depends on how fat your borders are. Basically, start near the edge and move your way out. The Jumbo Jet is older. I'm trying to think what it came out with. Gosh, it's been so long now. It's a great question. Was it Travel Log? Possible. It was Travel Log. Yeah, the layout is super simple, right? There's not a lot of technique here. You don't need to use that much of your brain to fold or tuck or cut. Choose your punch, choose your paper. But the combination together, I think, just adds a nice visual interest. And then you'll need, of course, repo tape to get this. I'm hoping they bring Jumbo Jet back. It did not sell very fast actually when we had it, but that was before the COVID demand hit. So there's not a lot of them in the market. They're kind of hard to find. Okay, my next step then is I could think about pictures, which I don't have, but I do have the little cards to show you. Let me grab. So you can see on this layout, I have the 4 inches, I have a little bit more spacing, and then you should have room to have a row of 4x6 here. So you can go through your mats or your photos. I actually, because mine were thinner in the spacing, I could even do 4x6 up here. Or I could even have room for another border row up there. So because I don't have my pictures printed, but I actually did go through to see what sizes I would print them. And I wrote what the picture was on my little card so I could kind of finish the layout. So these are in the airport, the walkway, my luggage, the plane. I thought would be probably 4x6 or 4x3 peekaboo. And then I have pictures on the plane of Cooper, Campbell, and me. She's up a little bit. I am going to print one 4x6 of us in security that turned out pretty well. And then I have a 4x3 at dinner in the airport. It was a little disappointing, dinner was. I knew we'd probably eat at the airport. Our flight was almost at 10. I was like, "Oh, leave about 7 and go eat." Literally the only thing left open was McDonald's, and I was like, "I am gonna break my keto diet to eat, and it's going to be McDonald's." I'm just so annoyed. I was so annoyed that that was my only option, but we had something to eat. If you'll notice here, whether it's vertical or horizontal, these were 4x6 mats. I showed the 5.5 by 3.5 inch photos on here. You could trim them down. And like I said, if we rotate it, we're getting that side by side effect here. And so I'm recreating this instead of horizontal 4x6s, I'm doing vertical 4x3s. And so the way that I print those is I use a Project Life app. I'll go into my phone, I open the app, which I could show you. So I go to Project Live. Let's see if this even shows up very well on camera. And I go to create, and I go to create a 4x6, and it gives me these two options here. And this is going to create a vertical one. And so then I hit that side of it. I go into my photos. And usually I'll put the ones I want to print my favorites so that I'm not digging through my entire camera roll. I don't want my favorites because I'm not there yet. So if I go into my recent ones and I have to scroll way down here. I won't have enough for a full album, so this will just get combined in with some other album. So then I find one of the photos I want 4x3, so a vertical one, this one of them on the plane or on the walkway. The nice thing about the app here is it pulled in that 4x6 vertical. You can also make it bigger, so you can zoom it in if you want. And so that's what I do a lot, is pull in the picture, and so then you don't have to crop it. You just kind of zoom in and out with your fingers. So when this prints as 4x6, it will be a full size. Now, if you want to trim it down, say you want to put these on a 4x6 mat and get more of this sizing, then just keep it zoomed out and know that you'll trim it when you actually get it in your hand. And so when I'm done with that side, I just click back out of it. I can click into the other side. And the nice thing about the app is it usually keeps it open where you were in your photo roll. So I could choose another one, say I want to use this one, my new luggage with my CM tag, and then they're both on this page. And then I just need to hit down here. There's this little button like you're sending it, and I'm going to export it as an image. And I'm going to hit save image, and it saves it back to the camera roll on my phone. And so then when I go into my phone and I go to Walmart, is where I usually print. This looks like a 4x6 photo, but it has these side by side on there. And so that's how I print mine. There are lots of different ways to do 4x6, but that's the easier. I've only ever done it this way. I've not done it on the Epson iPrint or anything like that. If I print this on my Epson printer at home, I just print it like it's a 4x6, and then I cut it in half. So that's your little 4x3 tutorial here. So I think I do have space up here. If I put all of these photos stacked, I was thinking I could do a little journal box or embellishment here. And then I have one 4x3 photo, which I could either mat down here and see more of my design, or I could go ahead and put it on a 4x6 of some sort and trim it down or journal at the top. Sometimes it's nice to go through your journal mats and sometimes just use half of it. So if I wanted to put this one up here, I could always mat this photo on here. I might even want to trim it down a little bit to sit on that mat. And then I could journal on this side of it. There. I'm not going to commit to my mats yet. I feel like when your photos are actually in front of you, these might be too busy. I might want to go to cardstock. Maybe I'll bring in that blue or something a little bit less busy. And then the fun thing to do at the end too is go through your embellishments and see if I don't use a mat here, if I use something solid. The Passport to Adventure was really nice about having lots of little like journal cards I could do to tuck in there. I could just do a little cluster here in the corner. Or get my punches out. I could go find my air paint punch. or the compass punch and layer in behind there. So, and the nice thing about 4x3s too is, if I printed all those as 4x6s, those are going to be 2 pages. I don't know about you guys. I have to keep my pages a little less. I'm going to have all these albums, all these pages, all this space. And so I do try to do 4x3s and keep them clustered in one page as much as possible, but you don't want to lose all of your design, which is why I kind of like making them smaller so you still get to enjoy your pretty papers and pretty punches for that. So that is my layout for tonight. Let me double check the questions. Yeah, the Project Life is free. I don't pay for it. Everything I just showed you is free. I have an Apple. Megan is saying it is on the Droid also. She has a Droid with that. She said that she thinks Epson Creative Print has more options for printing collages, but the Project Life app is a little easier. You just saw how easy it was for me. And I'm a lazy person when it comes to that kind of stuff. I want as easy as possible, put it on my phone, upload it to Walmart, and print for there. Yeah, and then once it's on your phone, you can print wherever you usually print. You could go to CM. I use Walmart because I don't like my prints to be wrapped up in my product orders. I don't want to delay anything. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I did like it I did not really like this a lot of this tonal papers, but I really liked it as a background. So I think sometimes you just have to get it mixed in with other stuff and it is a little bit more tolerable. It works out pretty well because the little squares in that design, which I didn't really like, kind of complement the words on there. It's almost like they know what they're doing. It's almost like the designers try to coordinate things for us. Okay. Well, Megan, it's your turn.
Hello. Welcome. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. As Tessa mentioned, it's a fun tax day. So hopefully we've got keep you a little something to distract you with as you're just as we all feel on tax day, right? So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the overhead camera. I am quickly going to talk about, because I know Tessa brought up frame chain, and I just want to quickly talk about why frame chain works so good, because I think it's a little bit of a helpful tip on how you can look at your other punches that you might have and how they work together. So I'm going to switch over to my overhead and I'll show you guys that. So what I want to point out about frame chain, and I forgot to grab the ornaments chain. If you flip it over, you can see that frame chain has 3 frames on there, 3 circle type things. Well, let's look at what's good one? Oh, circle punch also has 3. Lamplight chain also has 3. What was this one called?
Medallion chain.
Medallion chain also has 3. Diamond windows also has 3. Crystal chain, it also has 3. These can work together extremely well. I will tell you, if you happen to have a crystal chain and medallion chain, they work fabulous. So when you're starting to look at your things, you want to see how they interact together. Like, I would not be shocked to see that frame chain might actually work really well behind circle chain. So just when you're playing together, just like the threes, those are ones you can think about. How do they layer? They might layer really well, and maybe not. I have not experimented with all of these, but just sometime when you're playing around, if you want to see how they layer together, look for the number of times the pattern repeats in each punch. Okay. So now that that's being said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you my layout. And I forgot to grab it off here's the layout I have for you guys. It's on the handout. So I made this using Noteworthy Days. And you can see here, I used the cyclic circles at the bottom, just kind of had fun, picked a background paper that I liked both sides of. You will also want to make sure I have a background paper, I should say, this brown tonal paper out of the Noteworthy pack that's kind of just neutral. I picked a designer paper that I liked both sides of. The thing with that piece of designer paper is you want it to be non-directional, meaning that it can, some pieces can go sideways yeah, it just cannot be, it needs to be non-directional, because we are going to need to use a piece from the horizontal piece from the paper and a vertical piece and rotate things. And it just will work better if it's a non-directional paper. The white size photo mats, Tessa, those are called, what were those? The photo placement bundle or something like that you showed there. Is that what they're called? The photo placement bundle. I can't remember if that's still available, if that went, did it sell out? Tessa's nodding her head that it's no longer available. But it was a fun little thing that Creative Memories did. Of course, you can always cut your own placement holders. So my layout that I'm going to show you tonight, I have photos of cookie decorating with my parents came over, and all my big kids were around. And so we did that at the holidays. And so I'm going to be using out of the baking bundle that, what was it called?
Cookie Exchange.
Cookie Exchange. I can no longer remember these things. It's like my mind all of a sudden just filled up. Deborah is saying the bundle, the photo placement bundle is still available. So
I think it's last chance then. I'll double check.
Okay, it is last chance. I know it's last chance. If it is there, it is in the last chance section. It comes with an organizational, one of our accordion organizational things, and you can put them in there. I have my thing held open. I just have it sitting here on my desk. So it's pretty handy to have that. If you're needing to keep track of sizes. Yes, the camera file mate. All right. So for my layout, I need 2 base pages, and I'm going to be using the medium craft cardstock that is, they offered up to us earlier this year. And then I picked one of the designer papers out of the paper packs. And as I mentioned, I needed something that was non-directional on both sides. So there is, on the reverse side here, there is a little bit of direction. You can see there's a little bit of stripe action going on. So that is going to show on my paper or when I do my banners, but I think it's going to be okay. It's not a strong pattern, and I'm not worried about something being upside down or sideways. So this, I think, is going to work just fine. And then I went ahead and I've grabbed some complementary cardstock. I've got brown shimmer, lagoon shimmer, and then scarlet. And I can tell you I had to use my swatch to find a red that I liked the best, because the red that's on the reverse side is a little to the orange, maybe of like our cranberry. I felt that it just wasn't quite the right color, but scarlet out of my stash was. Even the red I thought was still just a little too not quite right. So if you haven't already made a swatch of your cardstocks, that is very handy rather than having to dig and pull out full sheets out of your stash to see what the color is going to look like. You can just twirl that around and see what's going to work best. So we're going to start off by cutting our designer paper. So we'll grab that and our trimmer. Now you need to cut, or we will be cutting an 8.5-inch square out of one of the corners of our paper. So to do that, I'm going to rotate my paper to the side, or excuse me, I'm going to rotate my trimmer to the side. And I will be cutting 8.5 inches out of this piece right here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring my cutting piece out here. I'm going to measure up to 8.5 inches. 8.5. Then what I'll do here is I'm going to measure over, I'm going to cut over here, starting on the left or the right side. I'm going to cut all the way to 8.5. So I'm 8.5 up here. I'm going to cut from over here on the right to 8.5 on my cutter. And remember, when you're doing that, where you need to know where to stop is going to be this white blade. So this white mark. So this white mark is going to come all the way over to 8.5. And I can see 8.5 right there. Eight and a half. Now what I need to do is I need to cut this line right here. So I can, if I want to, I just need to remember this is the line I want to cut. I want to get a square right here. So I need to figure out where this is going to be. This is what I want to cut. So my short edge should be here. And I'm going to cut along here, bringing this piece back to 8.5. So you have to kind of finagle your paper around so that you're cutting the line that you want to cut. Right? So you should see the big wide piece right here. And to the left of that, you'll have your shorter piece. Make sure you're at 8.5 up here, and you'll repeat that same cut, starting at 0, cutting over here to 8.5. And then that paper comes full, or it comes away. That in our directions was step 1, where we're cutting where it says cut 1. We make that cut and we made this cut. If we look at our paper, this is what we've cut so far. We've cut away that square. Now the square, you're going to cut it in half on the diagonal. That is showing cut 2. Actually, no, that should be showing cut 3. Your guys I have an old handout. Your handout, that should be, we should have already done cut 1 and cut 2. Now we're doing cut 3. The diagonal cut is cut 3. We'll be able to use either side. Now, cut 4 is taking our L-shaped piece here, and we're going to cut right along this diagonal. So line it up in your trimmer so that the corner is on your cut line, and the inside corner is also on your cut line. And then we need to cut each of these pieces in half, lengthwise. So that should be at 3 and 1, or 1 3/4. So this piece should be, 3.5. So 1 3/4 inch is where you're going to cut the piece in half. Now, what you can do here is, if you want your banners to be different sizes from each other, you could cut them not directly in half. You could offset it a little bit. Maybe you want to have one piece be 2 inches and the other one would be 1.5. But just whatever you do on one piece, you should duplicate it on the other. I'm going to keep mine just in half. So at 1 3/4. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and start showing, doing a dry fit, because I wanted to dry fit these pieces together before I start making some other decisions about color. But before I go too far, I also want to punch the bottom of my background paper. You don't have to do this step. I came in at the bottom and did cyclic circles. I will be honest with you, when I first put this together, I didn't have anything at the bottom. And then the way I got the photos on here, I kind of felt, well, there's a space here. Why not put something at the bottom? You wouldn't necessarily have to if you don't want to. You could use a chain style border at the bottom if you want to just punch it, or a layer, or excuse me, a sticker or a laser cut border. I'm going to go ahead and punch my cardstock though. And this, I am going to use the baking punch here, and it will just cut out. When you do this, ideally you just want to use a knockout style punch. So this baking one is just going to punch out the icons, just like the hand tools one, just punches out the hand tools. It's not going to alter the edge of my, the bottom of my paper. It is going to punch a little bit deeper, and I'm going to run into the issue. I just noticed this. I'm going to run into the issue that my measuring cup is going to be upside down. So we're going to see how this looks. I could put it at the top of the page instead of the bottom. I didn't think about the fact that my measuring cup is going to be upside down. We will see how this works to adapt. Everything else upside down is okay. I'm wondering if I can somehow, I might be able to make some adjustments. We'll see. So now here is also where I would want to come in, and I want to back my pieces. And just as Lisa mentioned, I can consider doing this at the top. I am going to back it, I think, with the dark brown for now. And then what I'll do is I might come in and punch out more of these with other colors, whether I use the lagoon shimmer or I bring in the scarlet. Just like I did with the sample in a cyclic circle, I added in the circles back with other colors. But for now, just to get it covered, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it looks like about a 1 5/16, just over 1.5, not quite 1 3/4 piece. I need 2 of those out of brown shimmer. And I'll be able to adhere those to the back of my medium craft paper. And I could do this at the top. So we're going to see what that looks like if I just have it at the top and then kind of shift everything down. May has a great idea where I could trim the border off here and then I could transfer it to like flip it over and kind of do that. That is an option. That would be an option where I could have, instead of punching it directly, I could have just made it a standalone border that would go at the bottom. So that's something to keep in mind. If you didn't want to do a full cut and splice, I could have just made any type of border to make at the bottom. It didn't necessarily have to be directly on the paper. Let me do, let's see if it sits like that. Plenty of adhesive, so I know this shimmer is not going to go anywhere. So Gail's asking what size of my swatches. So my swatches, I cut them to 2 by 3 inches. And then I used one of our tag punches to be able to get that punch at the top. But I've seen them where you could just use a hole punch in the corner. So if you feel like you just don't want to worry about getting fancy with it, you could certainly just do a hole punch and that would work great too. All right, let's start off at the top. Let's see what that's going to look like. I know I want to use the dots side. I wanted the dot side to be my triangle. And then here's going to be my banners. So when I do the dots here, I want to make my longer piece be the same pattern. So that's going to be the further away. So when I look at this, it's going to be there. I think this is going to work fine to have it at the top. And then I would come in and do my other border. Now here's where I see the difference a little bit, right? I can see that my patterns go the opposite way. It's not a huge difference. It just maybe, we'll have to see. The Jets BMC is not available. That is a retired one. I think it's been retired for quite a while. I think it maybe was available in 2017 when I first came on with CM, but I don't know that it was right. Is that what it didn't come out after that, did it? Jets?
I
Was
was
before.
thinking 17 is what I was thinking.
So here we go. This is kind of where we're going. Now it's time to think about what additional color do I want to bring in. So I have photos that I want to keep in mind when I'm picking out my matte color. So I'm going to put a couple photos on here and think about how do I want this to work. My son was taking a picture of his cookies to send to his girlfriend. I feel like I have to clarify what he was doing. So here we go. Here's how my pictures are going to look on here. Now I need to make the decision. I could come in just with more fudge, or excuse me, the brown shimmer. I could come in with some red. That's kind of bright. Or I could do the Lagoon shimmer. I really like the Lagoon shimmer, but I don't know that it sets off my photos very well. I'm actually thinking I'm just going to do more brown shimmer. And then I can bring in other color over here as well. I probably would actually bring in the brown and just let the red be accented in there. What I have is a scrap. So I'm going to actually cut some brown shimmer 4x6 mats. All of my mats on here are 4x6s. My photos have already been trimmed down. They're not quite that 3.5 by 5.5 that I mentioned in the handout. I sometimes like to go closer to like 3 would be like 3 5/8 by 5 5/8, but I know some people don't like the eighths like that. So I'm going to go ahead and trim 2 4x6 mats. And I could honestly, I could do each one of these. I could have all 3 colors if I really wanted to. There's no rules. You just do what your heart desires. Let's see. I'm going to take a quick peek before I cut. I think I know, I'm pretty certain I have to cut the Lagoon shimmer from a brand new piece, but I'm curious if I have a piece of scarlet, a scrap of scarlet. I think I've already used my last scrap of scarlet, so I'm gonna have to cut. I will cut some mats. I can tell you one of the things to do that can be helpful. I haven't done it in a while. Is to have another one like this that if you do mats like this and you didn't end up not using them, file them away for later. You could just put them in your scrap, but if you cut them to a mat size, keep them filed away as mats. You never know when you want to grab and need a matte color. So I'm going to cut this to 4x6 or 2. So I'm going 4 inches wide. And then I'll trim this down to 6. And I'll do the same with the Lagoon shimmer. So I'll have 2 of each color. Just some 4x6 mats. And of course you can arrange your things however you want. I see Linda saying that my angles on the layout are different. Yes, you can rotate your banners if you want them to be opposite. You sure can. If you don't like the 45-degree angle here, you could come in, do a flat cut and ribbon cut it. You can come in here with another 45 and have it be like an arrow pointing. So you can adjust these however you need. If you want them to be not all the way to the bottom, you can make those adjustments. So the banner is just giving you some pieces to work with. I don't know that I have a super strong opinion either way right now on this. I think I'm going to go ahead and get some other stuff kind of dry fitted together and see what I think. One of the things I showed was layering your photo under, or layering your mat under the triangle, and then your photo sits on top. Just something a little bit different. May or may not work for your layout, so don't feel that you have to do it, but it's just was something kind of fun to do. What I am trying to do here is I am trying to keep my scarlet a little bit of a distance from this red, simply because my red is pretty strong. I'll come in with this one and have the red still be, they'll be next to each other in the middle, but that should be okay. One of the things that I might need to consider, or you might need to consider, depending on your spacing, if you have a wider border at the top or the bottom, you could always shorten these photos a little, your vertical photos a little bit. So my photos, instead of doing like a 4x6 mat, I could have brought it to maybe like a 5.5 inch, or even a 5-inch mat. I could have probably done. On most of my vertical photos here, you can see I have room that I could crop these down a little bit shorter if I wanted to. So I am enjoying how this one's turning out. I think the multiple colors in here. I'm not sure I like these two reds next to each other. But I'm not sure that I like the red next to it there. But I also don't want to overthink it, because I'm the only one who's going to notice that kind of stuff. I cannot imagine anyone in my family saying, oh my gosh, why did you put the two red mats next to each other? They're going to be like, why was Kevin on his phone? Well, then I have to explain, he was taking a picture to send his girlfriend. And depending on how you have, if you have embellishments and so forth that you want to be able to include for some journaling or titles, kind of arrange your spaces. The other thing I need to do here is I need to come in with my accent banner. So I know for sure I need to bring in the lagoon, because I have the lagoon in this mat. I need to bring in the lagoon to the banner. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to cut 2 1-inch wide strips out of my lagoon shimmer. 1 inch is a place to start. You might want it to be a little bit narrower. It really just depends on your personal taste. So I've got 2 of those. And then all I'm going to do is put this on my 45-degree angle here, and I'm going to chop off the end, bringing my corner there on my 45-degree angle, and I'm just going to cut. This piece, I am just going to kind of layer in here. It's sticking out at the top. I'll cut that off. I want to just work to get my, where I want each piece to be. And if I need to, I could raise it up here if I don't want it to be all the way to the bottom. You've got a lot of flexibility in those banners. You can make them work for you. The other thing you can do, this layout is vertical, has more vertical spacing. Of course, are vertical photos. You could do the photos however you want. You've got basically a blank slate there once you get the base layout done. You can, if you want to, if it works for you, you could rotate this whole design and go like something like this, where you have coming across the bottom. And then you could even do it where you're coming across the top here, like your banners. Okay, so you can just kind of play around with it, rotate things, make it work for your photos. Yeah, I love that the lagoon shimmer in here with these papers. I think it's super pretty. I just need to figure out the spacing that I want for the, do I want them all the way to the bottom? I showed in my sample having like kind of a title situation over here, but I haven't quite, I've got to look through my stuff, got embellishments. I could come in here. I thought about doing the whole thing like baking cookies, but we're not actually baking cookies. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Would you like a title that we're decorating the cookies? I had already baked them. And I didn't take pictures of that.
Baking is
There
the whole
is, I see a comment.
process.
What?
It's the whole baking is the whole process, start to
No, it's
finish,
not.
in my
No, no, no,
opinion.
no, 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 no. This is not baking cookies. This is decorating cookies. It's
I
two
mean,
different things.
if you say let's bake sugar cookies, the assumption is you're also going to decorate them.
Nuh-uh.
We can take a vote. Who thinks
We
baking
can
can
take it to a
include
vote.
decorating? I'm sure, yeah, I see some hands. I'm sure some people agree with you. Some people will say no.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of options in here to be able to kind of figure out what I want to do. I don't know that I really have any more photos to choose from. But for me, it's going into here. I could use like the tradition, making a mess, because we are so messy when it comes to making. I don't know how you guys are. Maybe everybody gets a plastic plate or a paper plate and you sprinkle, and then you have the what we call them, the suicide cookies, which is terrible like name, but you know when you have like the suicide drinks where you put everything in there, you're tasting and you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We kind of call those the same thing when you have all your different mixture of sprinkles and put them on the thing. So anyway, so yeah, I've got some additional stickers in here that I can work on. I've got some more embellishments. I think over here, maybe it says recipe, and I don't know that I would want to have the recipe. I might look and see about whether or not I feel like I could just use a little bit of a journal thing and then maybe come in. I don't know. I got to play around a little bit more with the details here. If I really wanted to be like the kitchen sink cookies, that is perfect, Linda. I like that so much better. I could call it the baking crew. And again, it's not the baking crew. And I'm kind of tempted to save this because I really do want to have a full on like holiday baking party where you're just baking cookies. Oh, here, it's cookie time. That's a good one. And look, there's even a perfect little like plate of cookies. It's cookie time. And I can use the foam squares. I'm not normally a foam square type person, but I'm going to tell you, Tessa, I love those thin foam squares. Have you used them at all?
No.
That doesn't
Why do you
surprise me.
love them? Why do you love them?
Because they're thin. Like they're super thin. Like you get that little pop without it being like just too much. The other thing I could do is, I mean, honestly, this little cookie here, he could be a journal box. Like I could journal in that thing. I don't have that much to say. Um, he could come in here and just be a cute little journal, a journal thing right there. I could journal sweet memories. There we go. You guys get the vibe, right? You guys get the vibe. I've got to do a little bit of things here, but I don't mind having that at the top. I think the top or the bottom, just kind of fun, but it would have annoyed me. I guarantee you that those measuring cups would have been upside down. The other thing I can still do if I want to is I could come in and add I could punch out up here. I'm not sure that I will. I might think about it, but I'm not 100% sure. But you guys get you get the vibe if I wanted to. Now, I'm really quick. I have a nice little thin strip here. I'm really just kind of curious if I were to cut a little, like 3/8 of an inch. I don't think I can do two of these off of this sheet. Do I want to bring in that additional bit of dark color as a banner? One last. Kind of like it, guys. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit. I need to cut another one. And I ended up, this is like a 3/8 inch. I got to figure out how the layering is going to be on those, but I do like that 3/8, just a little bit of that dark to get that all of the colors in. I've got the light color down here. I'm going through my medium tones with my lagoon and my red, and I'm coming back to this dark, which just pulls all those colors in. So I'm going to come over here. I'll do another one on the opposite side as well. And then I think this is pretty much going to be how it's going to look, with just a little bit of maybe some minor placement adjustments. All right, so that's what we've got going for this layout. I've got a few things I've got to finish up, and I'll get it all ready to be shared. But thanks for joining us, guys, for our April Power Hour. The next Power Hour is going to be obviously in May, and I haven't asked Tessa. I was actually going to message her, and then I forgot. Can we do May 13th? I think that's a Tuesday. She's got to look at her. She's getting her calendar out. She's going to check and see. I don't think I have any conflicts on May 13th, but anyway, if she's going to look, we'll see. May 13th. And then the next big thing that's going to be coming up is at some point in May, we will be opening, and maybe later this month, we'll open registration for a summer scrap challenge. So looking forward to it. I actually filmed my first challenge layout today. Tessa's going to be like, "What? You did what?" She's like, "Oh my gosh." I was very excited. And so if you guys didn't know, in Washington, our school didn't get out till like June 20 something. So the first 3 weeks of Summer Scrap Challenge was any other given week for me. But now Summer Scrap Challenge is literally like coincides with my summer vacation. When we finish up at the end of July, my kid is starting school the following Monday. So if I want to do any kind of traveling or any kind of thing, I've got to have my stuff ready to go. And I also kind of wanted just to rub it in Tessa's face a little bit, but I got my first one.
This has literally been my summer schedule the entire time. This has been followed. So yes, I'm on break the whole time. And she acts like this is like new and revolutionary. That
it is for me. It is for me. But here's the thing, Tessa. Indiana in the summer is not the same as Phoenix in the summer, where you don't want to be here. I mean, people literally in this town will leave for a month. I used to leave for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time, right? I mean, there was a reason I was self-employed. I wanted that flexible schedule. I take my kids and head north and go anywhere that wasn't 115.
well, I think it's like if you can't travel all summer. I mean, we all know that. And the reality is because it's so hot, you have nothing to do but stay inside and scrapbook. Like I think a lot of desert people scrapbook more in the summer than the winter.
The scrapbooking season. I feel like here is like there's a small window around like in January where maybe it's still a little chilly and the days are short. The sunshine isn't going clear until the evening, but now we're starting to get these days where you want to, it's coming. The days indoors are definitely coming. But Summer Scrap Challenge will be coming. The registration will be coming for that soon. And I think that's all of the big excitement that's going on right now. Other than if you need to order your secret box, you better be getting that ordered. Box number 2 is available now. And for those who are wondering, because I know there was a big like kerfuffle about it, secret box number 1, if you missed it or you need another one, will be coming May 9th. All right. So very, very exciting. Did you have anything else to add, Tessa? She's shaking her head no.
We can do May 13th.
What?
We can do May 13th.
May 13th. You guys have heard it here. It's May 13th is going to be the May Power Hour. And so that'll be very, very exciting. Looking forward to all of that. Just as a quick reminder, hopefully you guys are getting these in your inbox. If you are not getting your inbox, check your spam box. Check if you have a promotions tab on Gmail. If you're consistently not getting them and you have a Yahoo email, a Hotmail, a Comcast, a not Gmail account, anything not Gmail, those are the ones that they really just one time it'll work fine. It'll come to you. And the next month, Comcast will have changed their spam algorithms and they'll decide that our stuff is spam. We try really hard to avoid all that. But we only can do so much. So if you're consistently having problems getting those emails to you, I would recommend considering to get a Gmail email address to do those. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, just a quick reminder, guys, if you ever wonder what the Zoom link is, it's always the same, always the same. So just keep track of one Power Hour email, keep track of the date, and you got it. And you can always find our handouts on the website. All right. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We will see you all on the internet at some point, but definitely again on May 13th. Thanks for watching.